Wyoming Citizen Legislature. Typical legislators, layman in Wyoming could be. You ask me to take time off from my job and spend 1 or 2 months in Cheyenne. You pay us less than any other legislator in the United States. I don't have an office or a personal staff. I must make hundreds of decisions in a very short time. How could you expect us to do a better job given the circumstances? Well, that is exactly what Wyomingites want from their citizen legislature. We want part-time legislators, we want them to reside in their home districts, and we want them to make decisions with little influence from professional staffers. This is the political culture of Wyoming. Most people in this state are conservative by nature, and this is what they want out of their Wyoming legislature. Look at some constitutional limits on the legislature in Cheyenne. Budget sessions are limited to 20 days in even-numbered years. During the budget session, a two-thirds vote is needed for non-budget bills, anything of a general nature, such as let's change the speed limit on the state's highways. So anything that doesn't have directly to do with the budget presented by the governor has to have a two-thirds vote to even be considered. Therefore, very few non-budget bills survive committee review. General sessions in odd-numbered years last 40 days, and during that time, any and all bills can be considered if they manage to make it through the committee stage. In all cases, with all bills considered by the legislature, the status quo is favored. They're more of a conservative nature. It's oftentimes citizens wonder in Wyoming, well, they're only in session for 40 days. Well, there are some of us, like myself, that feel like if you don't give them a set limited time that they're in Cheyenne, all they're going to do is cause mischief. The idea, the political culture in Wyoming is we need a legislature, but we want them in Cheyenne, get their business done, and get out. We have an interesting process on bills in the legislature. They have to be passed by a majority of all elected legislators. In other words, you cannot have a simple quorum. When bills are considered, they have to have a majority vote of the 60 members in the House and the 30 members in the Senate. Omnibus appropriation bills are not allowed in the Cheyenne legislature. Omnibus appropriation bills are those that gather together a huge number of bills, all having to do with the budget, and pass them as one bill. Can happen in the Wyoming legislature like it can in the U.S. Congress. All bills have to be considered on their own merit. All debate has to be germane on bills in the Wyoming legislature. In other words, you cannot, as you do in the United States Senate, attach riders. All bills have to have a clear enacting clause. You cannot abstain from your vote on bills unless you can show a personal conflict. And even then, the leaders in the House or the Senate in Cheyenne have to agree with your conflict. And no log rolling. You cannot have legislators saying that if you vote for my bill, I'll vote for yours. If that's found to have occurred, there are substantial fines or even dismissals for attempting to log roll with fellow legislators. Who are the Wyoming legislators? A number of them are ranchers. A number of them are business owners that can take time away from their business to be in the legislature in Cheyenne. A number of them are retirees, and there are a substantial number of educators. In all these cases, it's one of the reasons why the Wyoming legislature meets in February and March in even and odd-numbered years. That it's at this time that these types of people and these legislators can get away from their businesses, their ranches, and so forth. You're not going to get wealthy as a Wyoming legislator. They're paid $120 a day while in Cheyenne. That $120 a day has to pay for their room, their food, whatever the case might be. Lawmaking in Cheyenne happens by first reading. This is not that much different than what happens in the United States Congress. Standing committees in first reading will consider bills. The job of the committees is to filter through the good and the bad bills. Bills managed to get out of committee, they'll go to committee of the whole. Second reading of bills is when amendments can be attached as long as they're germane. They're going to combine similar bills. Third reading, you're going to have limited time to debate the bills, and then there will be a roll call vote. Then they have to go to the other chamber, where either the House or Senate will consider the other chamber's bills. Conference committees will work out differences in different chambers' bills. Then it goes off to the governor, where he can sign it or veto it. And the legislature always keeps a couple of days in their session after they've sent bills to the governor, just in case they need to meet to override vetoes by 2/3 vote in each chamber. Between sessions, Joint Appropriations Committee meets to consider the governor's budget. Legislative Service Office in Cheyenne is staffed by about 30 people who provide legal aid for the legislators. Lobbyists are important in Cheyenne. Lobbyists provide information for legislators. Those lobbyists will represent the industrial businesses in Wyoming, environmental concerns, small businesses, schools that need money from the legislature to continue operations. Municipalities and counties are completely dependent upon the sales tax in Wyoming for their operations, so they'll lobby the legislators, and public employees.